Part 29. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 281. Sucheng glanced at Zhang Lingzi gratefully. If it hadn't been for the pull just now, he would have been slapped aside by the suddenly opened car door. Then he looked towards the car curiously. This car was bigger than the car he was riding in today, Shen Heshen. He remembered clearly that the driver of that car was called young Master Shen Heshen. It was obvious that Shen Heshen must be a child from a rich family. Judging from the size of the car, the owner of this car may be more powerful than Shen Heshen. The simple summary is, he cannot afford to offend. Xiao Qiu, where are my sunglasses? Here, I have brought 3 pairs. Brother Huai, please choose one. Zhang Lingzi let go of Sucheng's arm and was about to walk around the car when the person in the car who had picked out sunglasses finally bent down and got out of the car. The white casual suit flatters the slender figure. Even the solace of the leather shoes of the same color are spotless. The short black hair at the temples can be seen to have been carefully taken care of. Simple black sunglasses are placed on the high bridge of the nose. For a moment, Zhang Lingzi felt that the sunlight still hanging high in the sky behind her was no longer so dazzling. The man was covered in white flowers from top to bottom, and the reflected light made her squint. Sucheng couldn't help but take a breath, and finally understood why this man had to park his car directly at the gate. If you walk here like them, the solace of your shoes will be dirty. It's really important to pay attention to people. Teacher Zhang. Jing Huai just got out of the car and saw Zhang Lingzi standing among a few people. After being stunned for a moment, he raised the corners of his mouth and said hello. Unexpectedly, Su Qingmei guessed correctly. The reason why this person rejected him before was because she wanted to have sex. The competition is fair, but it's a joke now. Zhang Lingzi was about to leave but was forced to stop. Thinking of Tong Yu's advice and her own promise, she nodded in the direction of Jing Huai and cherished her words like gold. Teacher Zheng. It seems we have the same destination, shall we go up together? This time Zhang Lingzi just hummed and walked away first. Looking at the 2 figures walking in front, the 2 Su family siblings who followed behind were stunned. Sucheng leaned into his sister's ear and said, I dare say these 2 people know each other. Suyi nodded, but he doesn't look familiar. I can see it too. Even strangers can see it, how could the person involved not feel it? Jing Huai looked warm on his face, but he was a little disappointed in his heart. He was a little surprised when he saw Zhang Lingzi just now, but he couldn't see the slightest bit of surprise on Zhang Lingzi's face. Even felt a very obvious alienation, which was simply undisguised. I haven't seen him for a while. It seems that this person is still as mentioned on the internet. He has changed a lot. It was not until he entered the front hall to register and receive his pass that Jing Huai knew that besides him and Zhang Lingzi, there was also an amateur guest present who was going to appear on The Legend of the World. He thought those following Zhang Lingzi were assistants. It was actually the amateur guest named Su Yi who was too plain looking, and his presence was not as strong as Zhang Lingzi's 2 real assistants. Until he saw the pass in Zhang Lingzi's hand that was exactly the same as the one his sister received, Sucheng finally recovered from the shock and looked over with wide eyes. Are you also a guest of The Legend? Zhang Lingzi put on her pass and turned to look at him. Although he didn't speak, anyone who is not stupid can understand the meaning of this look. Is there any need to ask? Sucheng, he thought about what he said to show off his sister on the way here, and the other party gave her a very serious compliment. Couldn't help but raise his hands to cover his face. I also realized the first truth after traveling far away, truly powerful people never show off their talents. From now on, I will never just grab someone and show off. Su Yi did not empathize with her brother's shame at this moment. She looked at Zhang Lingzi's bright eyes. The other person does not look older than her, but from the first meeting, she gives her a convincing power. Originally, she thought there was no need to meet him, but until now, She mustered up the courage and said, "Hello, my name is Suyi." Zhang Lingzi lowered her eyes and glanced at the handed hand. It was slightly dark and slender. If you look closely, you can see the yellowish calluses on the fingertips and palm. This is a hand that is used to working and is not pampered. Just when Suyi lost his courage and was about to take his hand back, Zhang Lingzi took hers and said, "Hello, I am Zhang Lingzi." When the palms of hands touched each other, it was warmer than the temperature of the air. Suyi's heart that jumped into his throat also fell back to its original place, and he smiled in relief. Sicheng watched this scene happen. Inexplicably, I feel a little relieved. God knows how withdrawn his sister is at ordinary times. When she was in a small town, she would not go out unless necessary and would draw whenever there was no work to do. Even his younger brother could not let her say a single useless word. Now I actually take the initiative to make friends. Congratulations. Jinghui looked coldly at the scene of two hands of different colors clasping together. When Suyi looked towards him, he turned around and led the way as if nothing had happened. "Let me lead the way. I've been here before and the elevator is over here." Suyi. She had no intention of shaking hands with this man. She knew very well that she and the two people in front of her were from two different worlds. But the difference is that the teacher Zhang Lingzi in front of her has no barrier between the two worlds in her eyes, while the teacher Jing's barrier should not be too deep. She has always been knowledgeable. When he got out of the elevator, Sicheng also met Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an. On this long trip, Sicheng assigned himself the role of being his sister's assistant. After learning that Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an were also assistants, they felt that they must have something in common as they were both assistants. Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an, who were unilaterally affirmed. "I don't think so." In fact, after they got to know each other, they discovered that the two brothers from the Su family have completely opposite styles. As quiet and reserved as the elder sister is, many people will go crazy for the younger brother. "I don't know, I thought they had known each other for several years." Conference room 301, that's it? Jinghui stood in front of the door and knocked. After hearing a shout of "come in" from inside, he stretched out his hand to open the door, then looked at Zhang Lingzi with a smile, "Ladies first." When Lu Zhengzheng followed Zhang Lingzi into the conference room, she couldn't help but turn her head and glance at him. When he walked to the corner of the conference room and sat down, he began to whisper to Su Ling'an, who was sitting next to him, "I used to watch the costume TV dramas played by Jinghui, and I thought he had the demeanor of a handsome young man from an ancient family, but now I feel more and more what's wrong with it." Even though the other person had been polite since he showed up at the gate, the more she looked at him, the more awkward she felt. Su Ling'an blinked after hearing her doubts, thought for a while and whispered back, "How does it compare to Shen Cheng played by her brother-in-law?" Lu Zhengzheng suddenly looked enlightened, "I understand. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry." Author, X. Press 11. Chapter 282. Before Zhang Lingzi entered the conference room, there were already 3 people sitting in it. The first person was a slightly fat middle-aged man. There was a nameplate on the table in front of him, which read, "Director Chen Yuen." The first person on the right is also a person. He is a young man with a somewhat arrogant expression. Not surprisingly, he is one of the guests. A woman with a somewhat serious expression was sitting on a temporary stool placed against the wall behind him. It was a seat specially arranged for the assistants of the guests. Lu Zhengzheng, Su Ling'an, and Sicheng also sat there. Zhang Lingzi walked to the first person on the left and sat down, and Suyi followed closely and took the seat next to her. Jinghui, who was the last to behave like a gentleman, saw that the 2 seats closest to the director were occupied. He squinted and took off his sunglasses, walked to the chair opposite Suyi and sat down. Chen Yuen kept his smiling and good-natured expression, looking at the 3 guests who had just come in with their assistants, and then looked down at his watch. "There are still 20 minutes left, 4 guests have arrived, and there are 3 more, let's wait a little longer. The young man on the right hand couldn't help but click the pen in his hand, and then he heard someone coughing behind him, and his movements suddenly froze. Zhang Lingzi saw clearly from the opposite side and raised her eyebrows slightly. 3 minutes passed quietly. Jing Hui broke the silence and said, "Director Chen, are we the only guests present today, and not a few special reviewers?" Chen Weiwen glanced at him and nodded. "The 5 commentators and teachers will not arrive until the program officially starts recording. In fact, I called everyone here in advance today to let you get to know each other in advance. This episode you are participating in the calligraphy and painting chapter is a completely different process from the previous Go chapter. Completely different." The young man who switched from typing pens to turning pens frowned and looked at the leader. The last issue of Go was a 2x2 game to determine the winner. The loser was eliminated and the winner stayed on the stage. Don't we compare calligraphy and painting this time? What will you record then? Don't worry, Chen Weiwen still smiled. After everyone has arrived and everyone has gotten to know each other, I will definitely reveal the information in advance so that you can be prepared. It's almost 6 o'clock, and the other 3 guests should be arriving soon. After another cough, the young man became silent again. Suyi couldn't help but glance in the direction of the door. Among the 3 guests who have not come yet, there is Shen Heshen whom she knows. She doesn't care about the other 2, but this one, don't be late. Zhang Lingzi was sitting next to her. Sensing the girl's anxious mood, she turned her head and glanced over. Suyi happened to meet the gaze that came over him. He pursed his lips and explained in a low voice, "There was a young man with us in the hotel lobby before. He was also a guest and hasn't come yet." Zhang Lingzi remembered when she heard what she said. When she first saw the young man, she thought he had a kind face. As soon as Suyi finished speaking, there was a knock on the door of the conference room when CAO arrived. The staff of the TV station brought several people over, one of them was the young man. However, the assistant following this young man is even more eye-catching. He is a big man who is about 2 meters tall and wearing a black suit. He looks more like a bodyguard than an assistant. When I entered the door, I was almost blocked by the door frame above. Shen Heshen. He couldn't bear to look straight and closed his eyes. It was 10 minutes before 6 o'clock, and the 7 guests of the painting and calligraphy chapter had all gathered together with their assistants. Chen Weiwen glanced across the faces of several people and stayed for 2 more seconds when he saw Zhang Lingzi and Jing Hui. His originally smiling eyes had completely turned into slits. "Good evening everyone. First of all, I want to apologize. I should have called everyone here during dinner. But this meeting is expected to be over in about half an hour. The canteen downstairs is currently preparing dinner for everyone. After the meeting, let's go downstairs and have a meal together." Hearing that he could still take care of the food later, Sicheng's eyes suddenly lit up and he sat up straighter. Furthermore, everyone has come from all over the world, and they don't know each other. This meeting is also to let everyone get to know each other. Let me start first. I am the General Director of this calligraphy and painting program, Chen Weiwen. I'm glad to take this opportunity to meet you talented young people. Now that I sit with you, I feel much younger. The less formulaic speech immediately relaxed the atmosphere in the conference room. After Chen Weiwen finished speaking, his eyes fell on Zhang Lingzi. Among our 7 guests, Zhang Lingzi, Teacher Zhang, and Teacher Jing Huijing should be familiar to everyone. Teacher Zhang was also the guest who won the last Go episode of our Heritage program. Then Teacher Zhang will give you a sample first. Su Yi's eyes were a little more amazed. Sicheng secretly signed her up for the painting and calligraphy chapter of The Legend of the World before. Later, he secretly photographed and uploaded the paintings she had just finished painting before confiscating them. He only told her about it after she was selected. At that time, she didn't know what kind of program Heritage was, so the siblings used their only mobile phones, connected to the neighbor's network cable, and watched several episodes of Go while charging, but they couldn't. Saw the last issue. But I also know the program flow of the Go chapter. If you can win to the end, you must be the one with the best level. First he played Go, then calligraphy and painting. This friend she had just met was so good that she looked up to him. Withdrawing his shining eyes from Zhang Lingzi, Suyi accidentally glanced at the expression of Teacher Jing sitting opposite her and was stunned for a moment. Although Teacher Jing was still smiling at this moment, her intuition told her that the other person was actually not in a good mood. Hello everyone, I am Zhang Lingzi. I am an actor by profession. I am very happy to get to know you through this program. I hope we can have a pleasant cooperation in the next 3 days. Chen Weiwen smiled and clapped to express his welcome. After Zhang Lingzi sat down again, he looked at Jing Huai, Teacher Jing. Hello everyone, my name is Jing Huai. Like Mr. Zhang before me, I am also an actor. I am in the same company as Mr. Zhang. When I am not filming, my hobby in my spare time is writing and drawing. I am very happy to meet you here. To some of my colleagues. Chen Weiwen applauded again impartially. There are still 5 remaining guests. How about introducing them in the order they entered the conference room? As soon as he finished speaking, the young man on his right stood up. It seemed that he was holding back a little too much. He introduced himself and opened his mouth. My name is Lu Sen, San Mu Sen, a descendant of Lu Ling. I am good at flower and bird painting. When Lu Sen mentioned that he was a descendant of Lu Ling, Zhang Lingzi noticed that the expressions of the last 3 people who arrived were a little more cautious. She guessed that Lu Ling should be a famous calligrapher and painter. However, since her memory does not exist, this calligrapher and painter should have been born after Yuan Zhao. As expected, it is impossible to escape the origin of family education. After Lu Sen, Suyi took a deep breath and stood up. My name is Suyi, and I study under a very good elder. His surname is Jian. I am good at, well, I don't seem to be good at anything. I have learned a little bit from teacher Jian in several major categories of Chinese painting. After finishing his words, Lu Sen couldn't help but sneered. I coughed again. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 283. My name is Shen Heshen, Heshen who is in harmony with light and dust. I studied ink painting because I like it. The teacher won't let me reveal his name, so I won't say it. After Shen Heshen sat down, the little girl who was walking behind him when he entered the conference room stood up quickly. He was the youngest among the people present, even younger than Su Ling'an who was sitting behind Zhang Lingzi. He had 2 small knots on his head and was wearing a blue and white sailor suit, looking like a middle school student. Her voice was also sweet and soft. My name is Qian Yaya. I am good at fine brushwork. My aunt is a professor at the Imperial Academy of Fine Arts. I was raised by my aunt since I was a child. Naturally, I learned painting from her. The next goal is to take the exam. God's Academy of Fine Arts. Just when Chen Weiwen nodded and raised his hands to applaud again, Qian Yaya suddenly looked at Jing Huai who was sitting across from her. Her fair face turned red with excitement. Besides, I am also a fan of brother Jing Huai. Let's break up later. Can brother Jing Huai give me an autograph? Jing Huai had some surprise on his face. When he met Qian Yaya's shining eyes, he smiled good-naturedly and nodded, of course. The little girl then sat down with a big smile. Chen Weiwen applauded and said with a smile, I didn't expect that one of our guests would be a fan of teacher Zheng. It's a wonderful fate. Qian Yaya is the youngest guest in our program this year. She just came on stage this year. I am a freshman in high school, but although I have the opportunity to share the stage with idols this time, I can't just focus on chasing stars. Qianyaya was busy nodding her head repeatedly. No, 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 I'll be satisfied if I can have an autograph from Brother Jinghuai. Compared to Qianyaya's nimbleness and immaturity, the last guest present was at the other extreme. My name is Lin Yo. A voice that sounded a little irritating came from behind the beard that almost covered his entire face. I will be 30 years old in 1 month, and I am almost over the age limit. You are Lin Yo. Lu Sen couldn't help but scream in surprise, and for the first time he looked at the bearded man sitting at the end of the seat with decadence written all over his body, and frowned. That Lin Yo who was revealed to have plagiarized Cloud Chow. As soon as the word plagiarism came out, Lin Yo's hands on the table suddenly clasped together, and anyone could see his tense state. Until a worried voice sounded from behind him, Arnold. This voice was like redemption. Lin Yo's tight nerves relaxed a little, and his tone became more self-deprecating. I didn't expect anyone here to remember my name, but since you said so, I will help you. By the way, in my own defense, I did not plagiarize. Lu Sen didn't even care about the cough coming from behind him. Hearing this, he sneered, I hate people who plagiarize other people's works the most in my life. It's best if you don't. Lin Yo looked directly at that cold gaze and said, I signed up for this program just to clear my name. Okay, I'll wait and see. As the others sat down, the conference room was quiet for a moment. Zhang Lingzi glanced at the man named Lin Yo, then turned her head slightly to look at the woman sitting behind him. The woman looked to be about 30 years old, with a sadness hanging between her brows. She looked more artistic than the unshaven Lin Yo. This combination of guest and assistant was the only one she misjudged. She originally thought that this woman was one of the guests, but she didn't realize that she had guessed wrong until the two of them were in their respective places. Chen Weiwen broke the silence. Now that everyone has gotten to know each other, and there are still 3 full days for everyone to get along, then I will announce the next program recording process. From the beginning, he thought that Lin Yo would cause controversy when he became a guest. But firstly, this quota was carefully selected by Mr. Li and 2 other reviewers from the submitted works. Secondly, he also thought about the controversy. Then there will be corresponding heat. After all, he is not a pure artist, but a variety show director who likes art but pursues program performance more. Hatchbacks were superimposed, and Lin Yo finally became one of the 7 guests. Okay, that's the general process. It doesn't matter if you don't remember it. The program team will notify everyone of every upcoming itinerary in advance. There will be preparation time, as long as everyone can ensure that the phone is open. Everyone should be a little hungry by now. To be honest, my stomach just growled. I won't talk nonsense. Let's go downstairs to eat. As soon as he finished speaking, Sicheng was the first to jump up from his stool. Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an turned their heads and glanced at each other, scratching the back of their heads in embarrassment. What, my stomach is growling too. Su Ling'an held back her laughter and nodded to express that she had just heard it, and then walked quickly behind Zhang Lingzi. Sister, I have remembered the process that Director Chen just said. Zhang Lingzi patted her arm. Great, have a good meal later. The director brought several guests with him. It is conceivable that the guests will sit at one table and the assistants will sit at another table for the next dinner. She should not care about Su Ling'an and Lu Zhengzheng. Lu Zhengzheng held Su Ling'an's wrist and assured Zhang Lingzi, Sister Zixi, don't worry, I promise to make and eat well. The group of people took 2 elevators and went to the canteen. In the same private room as last time when he and Shi Lao ate here, Chen Weiwen sat down. Although he did not directly call out the names of people to sit on his left and right sides, after Zhang Lingzi and Jing Huai took their seats, the others took their seats one after another. The assistant table next to it was much more casual. After Lu Zhengzheng took Su Ling'an to sit down, he called to Sicheng again, and Sicheng was so familiar with it that he called the tall bodyguard brought by Shen Heshan. No, Assistant. 4 people sat together. When the seats were finally full, Su Linghan raised her head and met the eyes of Assistant Jing Hui opposite her. She nodded politely, but she didn't expect that the other person looked away as if he hadn't seen her. I felt uncomfortable for a moment, but fortunately, I was soon relieved by the sound of Sicheng muttering from the side that the food was about to be served. Her filter on Jing Hui is now almost broken. Thinking about it, it's not surprising that the other assistant's assistant is like this. Qianyaya took the signature handed over by Jing Hui and happily read it several times before reluctantly closing the notebook. By the way, what kind of fonts is Brother Jing Hui good at? Before the recording of this program is finished, can I be greedy and ask for a signature of Brother Jing Hui's calligraphy in ancient calligraphy? Although the signature just now was signed by hand, it is no different from the signatures posted online. The little girl really wants a signature that is unique to her. Jing Hui's smiling expression paused for a moment. I have practiced several types of calligraphy. Which font do you like best? Can I still choose it myself? Qianyaya's eyes lit up. What about Yuan Zhao style? It's the font created by Emperor Yuan Zhao. The characters are like swimming dragons. They look domineering and chic. I like it the best. Zhang Lingzi originally just poured herself a glass of water and drank it slowly, but when she heard this, she couldn't help but stop drinking. When he raised his eyes, there was a rare hint of genuine doubt in his eyes. She did improve the writing of some fonts and incorporated some of her own writing habits and styles, but how could she not know that she also created a calligraphy called Yuan Zhao style? Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 284. Jing Hui. Suddenly I feel a little regretful. He should not have let the other party choose just now. This time, he fell into the hole he dug himself, either through mental calculation or not. Who in the world doesn't know that in history, the Yuan Zhao style created by Empress Yuan Zhao after she ascended the throne is both a niche and the most difficult type of font to practice. It is precisely for this reason that Yuan Zhao style has not become the mainstream of modern calligraphy. But as long as he is a famous calligrapher, he will deliberately practice Yuan Zhao style. Because of this type of font, the shape is secondary, and the pursuit of charm and momentum is more important. Even he has not seen the handwriting of the eternal Empress thousands of years ago, only some copied words. But Qianyaya's aunt is a professor at the Imperial Academy of Fine Arts. Maybe this girl got her aunt's credit and actually saw the handwriting left by Empress Yuan Zhao. After sitting stiffly for a few seconds, Jing Hui nodded lightly. With a hint of shame on his face, he said, "But I'm not very good at Yuan Zhao style. Don't laugh at me if I don't write well." "No, no, no," Qianyaya waved her hands quickly, "I also know that Yuan Zhao Ti is the most difficult to practice. My aunt has been practicing it for more than 10 years, and she even said that she can't even have the charm of the original." "Well, that's even less true for me, I just like it." But Jing Hui just wanted to change the topic at this moment. He didn't want to talk about Yuan Zhao at all. Turning his head, he saw Zhang Lingzi sitting in the seat across from director Chen Weiwen, drinking water. An idea suddenly came to his mind. "By the way, I remember that teacher Zhang is currently filming the historical drama Empress Yuan Zhao, in which she plays that's Emperor Yuan Zhao, right?" Facing everyone's gaze, Zhang Lingzi put down her cup, glanced at Jing Hui, and nodded, "Yes." Qianyaya didn't realize that the topic had been changed at all, and subconsciously asked curiously, "Is it going to be finished soon? When will it be broadcast?" "It's still early as for when it will be broadcast, it depends on the director and post-production. When my aunt was practicing Yuan Zhao Ti, she liked to talk to me about Emperor Yuan Zhao. She said that she was not only good at calligraphy, but also proficient in literature, Tao, and martial arts. She made me feel like a Superman. I will wait until this TV series is released." I want to go take a look and take my aunt with me. Thank you in advance, Miss Yaya, for your help in contributing to the ratings. No thanks, just don't air it too late. If it's aired after I'm a senior in high school, my mother probably won't let me watch TV. The meals that had been prepared for a long time came out one after another quickly, and everyone used their chopsticks one after another, and only then did Chianyaya stop talking. After dinner, everyone walked out of the TV station together. Those who stay at the hotel arranged by the program team will go back to the hotel, and those who have prepared their own accommodation will go back by their own cars. Zhang Lingzi and Suyi naturally went back to the hotel. One of them had just been filming for more than a month, and the other had just been on the road for 3 days and 3 nights. Even though it was just after 8 o'clock, they didn't want to stay out longer and just planned to go back to the hotel to rest. When we arrived at the hotel lobby, we met Lin Yo and his girlfriend who was his assistant. Seeing that the other party did not want to have any private interactions except for necessary interactions, Zhang Lingzi just nodded at the two people and took Lu Zhengzheng and Su Ling'an back to the room. Lin Yo looked at the backs of the other two guests leaving with their assistants. He retracted his gaze and then looked to his side. I didn't expect there would be 2 stars in this program. Isn't that just right? It just so happens that with these 2 people, the popularity of this program will definitely be much higher than the last Go chapter. This means, he paused and lowered his voice, it is estimated that there will be more. Many old friends saw me on TV. Arnold, it's not you who should be afraid this time, but those who frame you for profit. Remember, we are here to clear our names. I don't believe there are not bright enough eyes in the world. This time it won't be dozens of people, there are hundreds of people, and there will be more than millions watching TV. Is it possible that they can still bribe them? Arlen, you are right. Lin Yo took a deep breath and nodded seriously. Let's go back to the room and have a good rest so that we can rush to the battlefield with enough energy. No, I won't go back yet. Lin Yo grabbed his girlfriend's hand. When the other party looked back in surprise, he raised his hand and touched his beard. I want to go and shave my beard. My hair is too siu. I'm afraid they won't recognize me now. Arlene paused, her eyes were a little red, and she nodded heavily. Okay, our Arnold is finally willing to become a handsome guy again. I want to hire the most skilled stylist. Asterisk. On the other side, except for the 3 who returned to the hotel, the other 4 guests all had their own places to stay. Although Lu Sen's family is not here, his sister has a house in Daidu. As soon as the 2 of them got into the car, Lu Jiaojiao reached out and twisted his ears. What did I tell you before entering the conference room? Please restrain yourself. This is the imperial capital, not your hometown. You are no longer the boss of the family, and you cannot be a strong dragon in this place. This imperial capital is better than there are plenty of people out there who are capable. But what did you do to me? You laughed at this and that in front of the director and the guests, and turned a deaf ear to what I told you, right? Sister, dear sister, Lu Sen repeatedly begged for mercy. Please be merciful, your brother will have to record a show tomorrow, and his ears are going to be swollen. Lu Jiaojiao then let go of her hand angrily. If you still can't control your mouth tomorrow, I'll ask your brother-in-law for some dumb medicine to help you pour it in. Lu Sen, cruel, too cruel. I try my best not to speak, right? Otherwise, his sister would really be able to do such a cruel thing. Asterisk. Chianyaya was picked up by her aunt. How are you? Are the director and the other guests easy to get along with? It's easy to get along with. Chianyaya took out the notebook from her backpack, turned to the signed page she just got, and handed it over. Auntie, look at it. What's this? Qian Yishan took it and read it carefully for a few seconds before frowning and giving up. It's so fancy that I can't see what's written. It's the autograph of my idol brother Jing Huai, Qian Yaya happily shared with her aunt. This is the biggest surprise today. I didn't expect that Jianya would one day be able to record a program with my favorite idol. And, what should I do? I'm already looking forward to tomorrow, and I might be too excited to sleep tonight. Isn't he just a star? Jian Yishan didn't follow stars and didn't know Jing Huai. He really couldn't understand his niece's excitement. This signature is also very fancy and scrawled. Even a calligrapher like me can't recognize it. But brother Jing Huai also promised me that he would write another signature in Yuan Zhao style and give it to me before I finish recording the show. Qian Yu Chain was about to close the notebook for a moment, then quickly turned to look at his niece. Yuan Zayati, are you sure? Are even celebrities in the entertainment industry so powerful these days? Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 285. The low-key black car quietly drove into Z1. When Shen Heshan got off the car, he saw the housekeeper of his cousin's house waiting outside, and walked over quickly. Brother Xia, where is my cousin? Xia Ji skillfully accepted the gift and replied, Sir, you are not at home, but I know that you are coming to the imperial capital to participate in the program, and you have already told me on the phone. During your stay in the imperial capital, just stay at ease. I will take care of you now. The yard where you live. Shen Heshan's originally excited expression suddenly turned listless. It's already so late, cousin, hasn't he come home yet? Xia Ji sighed, I also want my husband to come back early every day to eat and rest, but he is too busy. Oh well. Having walked halfway, Shen Heshan still couldn't help but ask, well, I finally came to the imperial capital this time. My cousin, he always has time to have a meal with me, right? Xia Ji paused, thinking about the arrangements for the next few days that his husband had told him on the phone, and looking at the aggrieved and expectant face of the young man next to him. If nothing else, you will be able to see your husband tomorrow. Tomorrow? Where will we meet? But I will go to the program team tomorrow to start recording the program. According to the program flow that Director Chen said, it will probably take a whole day to record. I don't know where it is, but since Sir said so, I will definitely see it when the time comes. Shen Heshan. He said in a faint tone, when did you start showing off? Xia Ji smiled back and didn't say a single extra word. However, the news that we can meet tomorrow makes Shen Heshan feel a lot happier after all. Asterisk. The black nanny car with the privacy film on it was parked in front of the door of the 5-star hotel. Jing Huai put on all his equipment and got out of the car. When he passed by the hotel lobby, he heard two little girls discussing excitedly. I heard that someone seemed to be staying at this hotel. Then who is it? Could it be your idol? But this seems to be a private trip, and the official has not disclosed it. Do you think if I go to ask for an autograph, will I be rejected? How will you know if you don't try it? He always seems to have a good temper and has never lost his temper with his fans. Jing Huai paused, his eyebrows above his sunglasses frowning slightly. He was worried that Su Qingmei was there this time, so he deliberately did not let his subordinates reveal the hotel where he stayed this time, but now it seems that he was discovered by fans. Did someone under him accidentally reveal it, or is it a problem with the hotel? While thinking, the phone in his trouser pocket suddenly vibrated. He took out his cell phone and glanced at the message he had just received. He immediately stopped thinking about anything else and walked quickly towards the elevator. There are 2 presidential suites on the top floor of this hotel, which were booked by the same person. Even the hotel staff were specially instructed that as long as the guests in the presidential suite did not call specifically, no one could go up to the top floor to disturb them. Jing Huai left room 3302 for himself, and the better room 01 was naturally reserved for Su Qingmei. But after he got out of the elevator, he walked directly to the door of room 3301 and rang the doorbell. The door to the room was opened quickly by someone who was an acquaintance. Come in, Sister Qingmei is already here. Although the person in front of him was still Su Qingmei's assistant, Jing Hui still nodded politely to him before walking through the door. After he entered, the other party left the room directly and closed the door. By the way, he said hello to assistant Jing Hui who was staying in the corridor, let's go to the opposite side. Hearing the sound of the door being closed behind him, Jing Hui paused as he walked in. Going through the dimly lit entrance hall and walking to the brightly lit living room, he saw the figure holding a red wine glass and only wearing a burgundy nightgown, standing in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling window with her back to him. Sister Qingmei. Su Qingmei swung her wine glass, turned around and glanced over, then sat down lazily. Have you seen the other guests? Well, Zhang Lingzi is here too. There was no surprise on Su Qingmei's face, and she even took a sip of red wine in a relaxed manner. I know Jing Hui's cheek flesh couldn't help but twitch, and he pressed down the words he wanted to ask, why didn't you remind me, and continued. In addition to Zhang Lingzi, several other guests in this issue are also a bit complicated. Originally, he thought that the amateur guests would never be able to compete with him, who had a large fan base in his own right. Even if those people were better at painting and calligraphy than him, it would not matter. When the show was on, they would be his home, and the others would be supporting actors. But after getting to know each other during this meeting, he was a little unsure. Just the guy named Su Yi, he's quiet and reserved, not outstanding, and judging by his dress and family background, he probably isn't that good either, so don't worry about him. Qian Yaya is his fan, which has advantages and disadvantages. The advantage is that since this girl is his fan, she naturally belongs to him, but the disadvantage is also obvious. This girl is a fan of him because of the TV series he acted in and the character he created, but the real person is different from the previous actor. How could his role be the same? He was already feeling tired at the thought of having to be in close contact for 3 days. There is also Lu Senator. Not only does he have a good family background, but he also has quite a personality. At first glance, Shen Heshan is a young man from a rich family who is inexperienced in the world. His looks alone are enough to make his debut. He is good-looking, talented, young and rich. It is conceivable that he will definitely attract a wave of fans after appearing on the show. There is also Lin Yo, who came against the plagiarism controversy and said that he wanted to clear his name on the show. I am afraid that it will also cause a lot of discussion. With so many people joining together, it is easy to imagine that the popularity will be high, but when he thought that his fans might make wedding clothes for these people, he couldn't even drink the red wine Su Qingmei handed him. After listening to his analysis, Su Qingmei didn't feel the same at all. She even narrowed her eyes and laughed. Interesting. A show brought together so many guests with different personalities and backgrounds, and she wanted to see how Zhang Lingzi would stand out on the show. Still looking forward to it. Jing Hui. He is the only one who is depressed. Asterisk. Zhang Lingzi washed herself and lay down on the big bed in the bedroom, but she couldn't sleep. I simply took my phone and searched for Yuan Zhao Ti, and I saw that there are special entries to explain these 3 words. After reading it, she was silent for a while, exited the search interface, opened her friends list, found Shen Yunqing's avatar, and clicked on it. Shen Yunqing had just finished the call with Wu Zhu. When he was about to put down his phone, he saw the profile picture on top of it lit up. He quickly picked it up and clicked on it. Your Majesty. Shen Yunqing, Your Majesty, do you have any questions? Your Majesty, do you know Yuan Zhao Ti? Shen Yunqing, no. Your Majesty, I just found out today that I am a calligrapher. Shen Yunqing stood up, looked around the office, turned around, opened an invisible door, and walked in. Finally, I stopped in front of an antique wall in the lounge, turned on my cell phone camera, and took a picture of a calligraphy hanging on the wall. Select and send. Shen Yunqing, isn't it? Zhang Lingzi clicked on the picture, and with just one glance, She recognized that the picture was one she had written when she was on the set. After she finished writing, she put the pen down and stopped looking at it. She thought it was taken away by the plumbing staff, but she didn't expect it. It fell into Shen Yunking's hands. "Your Majesty, when did you get it?" "Shen Yunking, I put it away easily, isn't that always the case?" Zhang Lingzi looked at the news and suddenly remembered an old thing. It goes without saying how important the emperor's pen and ink is, and it cannot be touched by others. She would organize it herself when she was not busy, but some less important items would sometimes be lost due to carelessness. Sometimes she was too busy and had no time, so she would give the task to her prime minister, and she never made a mistake. But at this moment, looking at the words carefully framed on the picture and hung on the wall, I still inadvertently felt a strange feeling in my heart. Now is no longer the past life, and the words she wrote are no longer as precious as in the previous life. Logically speaking, there is no need to be so careful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 286. Zhang Lingzi was still savoring the strangeness in her heart when the phone in her hand vibrated again. She lowered her eyes and crossed out the picture to read the message she had just sent. "Shen Yunking, it's getting late. I have to get up early to record the program tomorrow and go to bed early." After reading the news, Zhang Lingzi cancelled her original plan to ask about the brand Shan Yu's Haiheng. There will be many opportunities in the future. Your Majesty, you too, don't be busy too late. After Shen Yunking slowly exited the chat interface, he saw that there was an unread message that had just been sent, and he clicked on it. "Shen Heshen, cousin, I prepared a surprise for you this time, but Brother Xia said that you have been too busy recently to even go home. Could it be that when I come to the imperial capital, I won't even be able to see you in person? How cruel is this? Shen Yunking, go to bed early." Shen Heshen was tossing and turning on the bed. When he heard the message notification, he sat up suddenly. When he saw that the message he sent had a reply, a series of messages were sent out continuously. Shen Yunking listened to the message prompts that were ringing one after another, and couldn't bear it, turned on mute. "It has stopped?" Asterisk. The next morning, just after 7 o'clock, Zhang Lingzi opened her eyes decisively when she heard the sounds of people walking back and forth in the living room outside. When he opened the door and came out, he saw Tong Yu, Lu Zhengzheng, and Su Linggan busy going back and forth. "Wake up, I'm about to call you. The hotel's breakfast hasn't been served yet, so I just want to try on my clothes first." "Your footsteps are more effective than an alarm clock." Tong Yu raised her eyebrows. "When did you hear so well?" she said, and handed over the dress. "Today is the first day of program recording, so dress more grandly." "How do you like it?" "Don't choose this one." Zhang Lingzi handed over the phone she had just read the text message on. "I'm going out on location today, and I estimate that I'll have to walk a lot, so wear something that's lightest and easiest to move around, and it's best to pair it with a pair of flat shoes." Tong Yu took the phone over, turned on the screen and looked at the group text message on it and said, "Teachers, please come to the lobby on the first floor of the TV station at 8 o'clock on time to gather. PDS are already in place. Please don't be late. Latecomers will rush to the program by themselves. Recording location." This doesn't even mention the location. Isn't that the last sentence? Tong Yu. She read the last sentence twice, and then she took back the dress she had chosen with suspicion, then took off the lightest one, and made a confusing choice among a row of high heels. "I bought a pair of flat ones, I'll believe you this time." Zhang Lingzi took it. "Trust me, you won't be wrong." Tong Yu. However, after Zhang Lingzi went back to the bedroom, changed her clothes and shoes, and came out, She said nothing at all. Among the three dresses, this one was the most low-key in her opinion. The color was also a soft light cloud gray. She never expected that the upper body would be so stunning. Lu Zhengzheng had already prepared her needlework. She had experience in this area. The dress sent by the brand was not tailor-made according to the artist's figure. There would always be something that didn't fit here and there. If you want your upper body to look good enough, you have to modify it slightly. But this time she walked around Zhang Lingzi and carefully touched the waist, sleeves, and other places that were most likely to need to be changed. Finally, she discovered with regret and surprise, this dress fits Sister Zixi too well. It doesn't fit at all, need to change. Zhang Lingzi lifted up her skirt and sat down, then let's eat. Upon seeing this, Tong Yu had no choice but to swallow the suggestion of trying on 2 other dresses by the way. However, looking at the one Zhang Lingzi was wearing at the moment, she had an inexplicable hunch that the other 2 sets should also fit if nothing else happened. Is it possible that the Shanyu's Haihang brand also has the body shape data of its own artists? This is just like Shanyu's Haihang suddenly sponsoring the dress of his own artist, which makes her manager still a little confused. However, there is no need to think too much about the great benefits of this kind of initiative being delivered to your door. You just need to accept it happily. Asterisk. At 7:30, Su Linggan put on his backpack and opened the door of the suite, and met the eyes of Sicheng looking diagonally across. The young man rubbed the back of his head out of habit. Morning, are you guys going out too? What a coincidence. Su Linggan didn't bother to expose him, he just nodded, turned around and looked into the room. Let's go, sister. Sicheng also quickly turned around and called Suyi, who had already packed up his clothes and was ready to go. Sister, we're leaving. Zhang Lingzi and Suyi went out almost at the same time. After looking at each other, Zhang Lingzi nodded towards the girl. Suyi suddenly became energetic. He lifted up his skirt and walked to Zhang Lingzi's side. Good morning, Teacher Zhang. Morning, overnight. Teacher Zhang, just call me Yi. Okay, Yi. Sicheng followed the 2 of them, looking at his sister whose back became a little bit clinging to a human. He couldn't help but touch the back of his head again. This is still his tough sister who is usually quiet, but if she gets anxious, she can take a kitchen knife and a stick and transform into a female Tyrannosaurus to fight people desperately. Why does it seem that as soon as I get in front of this Teacher Zhang, I feel like a different person? A few people walked to the elevator entrance, and the 2 people waiting for the elevator in front turned to look over. Suyi saw the woman's face and was about to nod in greeting, but was stunned when he saw the strange man standing next to her. Fortunately, Zhang Lingzi said, Mr. Lin. Lin Yo met Zhang Lingzi's looking eyes and couldn't help but raise his hand to touch his clean face after shaving off his beard. After shaving and cutting his hair last night, he even looked at the mirror for a long time. He even felt that his face was very strange. After returning to the hotel room, he looked at the mirror for a long time before he finally got used to it. What it looks like now. I didn't expect that the other party would recognize him when we met him today. Suyi opened his mouth, but it was rare that his mouth went faster than his brain, beard. Lin Yo had a frank look on his face. I shaved it off because I was afraid of scaring the audience. Sicheng stepped forward and took a closer look. I didn't expect that he looks quite handsome with a shaved beard. Lin Yo smiled good-naturedly. When they arrived at the lobby where the TV stations met, Lu Sen and Shen Heshan, who had already arrived, were also surprised when they saw Lin Yo with a shaved beard. When it was almost 10 minutes before 8 o'clock, Jing Huai was the last one to arrive in a hurry. Seeing that the director and other guests had already arrived, he paused and quickly explained, I'm really sorry, there was a bit of a traffic jam on the way and I kept everyone waiting for so long. Zhang Lingzi stood in front of him, sniffing slightly, smelling the smell of alcohol covered by strong men's perfume, and glanced at the man with raised eyebrows. Qianyaya was afraid that her idol would be the last one to arrive and the director would be unhappy, so she immediately went over to smooth things over. I just arrived too. It's still 10 minutes before 8 o'clock. It's not too late, not too late. Chen Yiwen nodded with a smile. Now that all the guests are here, let's go upstairs to put on makeup. The location where we will record today's program is in a studio, which only opens at 9:30, so don't be in a hurry. If you haven't eaten yet, you can go again. Go to the cafeteria and have a meal. After the last sentence, the eyes of the Su family siblings suddenly lit up. Jing Hui, who hurried over because he got up late and didn't have time to have breakfast because he was drunk, also moved his eyes when he heard this. Then he met Director Chen's gaze and couldn't help but pursed his lower lip. This guy always looks like a nice guy with a smile on his face, but a director who can get involved in a variety show in China and Taiwan must have some skills that should not be underestimated. You shouldn't have noticed anything, right? Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 287. Chapter 287 Need to do it yourself. Makeup is done in a large dressing room, and each guest is assigned a makeup artist. Before filming on the set, Zhang Lingzi had already developed the habit of applying moisturizing lotion and sunscreen to isolate herself every day. This time, she also applied the isolation before going out. Now all you need is a makeup artist to simply apply makeup. The makeup artist was a little uneasy when she saw that she was assigned to Zhang Lingzi. Although Zhang Lingzi had come to the national channel to record a program last time, she didn't even have time to enter the dressing room door. This was their first time working together. She had heard a lot of rumors about Zhang Lingzi's bad temper and poor patience before. She was already nervous before she started doing anything. She couldn't help but cast envious glances at the colleagues assigned to the amateur guests. Even the one assigned to teacher Jing would have better luck than her. Zhang, what kind of makeup does teacher Zhang want, light, lighter or thicker? Zhang Lingzi sat in front of the makeup mirror and just turned on her phone. Putting on makeup was a boring thing for her, especially for a costume drama. It also took at least an hour to style her hair. She couldn't bear to sit there and do nothing for such a long time. Fortunately, her mobile phone had powerful functions. She could watch TV shows, read books and play games, so she could pass the time no matter what. Looking up at the makeup artist waiting aside, he didn't miss the nervousness hidden in the girl's eyes. Is she that scary? Just watch. The makeup artist was stunned for a moment, then nodded quickly and continued to ask for advice in a low voice. The skirt teacher Zhang is wearing today is soft in texture and neutral in color. It is suitable for thin and transparent makeup. So, should I follow this direction? The makeup artist breathed a sigh of relief. She doesn't point fingers and is willing to listen to her own opinions. As a makeup artist, this is what I like most about her makeup subjects. I think teacher Zhang has already gone to quarantine, so I'll just put on makeup. Good. The makeup artist's hand holding the eyebrow pencil is much more steady. Su Yi sat on the makeup stool next to Zhang Lingzi and glanced at the makeup artist in front of her who was sorting out the makeup box. She had never seen the large and small bottles and jars and various tools in the exquisite small box, and she didn't know how to use them on her face. She could only sit up straight and suppress her nervousness. This pair is in sharp contrast to the pair next door. After the makeup artist packed up the lunch box, he went to carefully look at the face of the guest he was responsible for. When he met his direct gaze, Su Yi couldn't help but hold his breath. Teacher Su, your skin is a little dark and rough. It's best to put on a facial mask for first aid, but it's too late now. I'll try my best to fix it up for you. I haven't taken care of my skin before, just look at it, it's troublesome. The makeup artist was stunned for a moment, then smiled. It's okay, teacher Su is too polite, don't be nervous. Su Chen was sitting in the corner holding his backpack, thinking about what to eat in the cafeteria later. He listened to the conversation between his sister and the makeup artist, and then looked at teacher Jiang's face with no flaws at all. Finally, falling on the bottles and jars on the dressing table, a deep thought flashed across his eyes. Jing Hui walked to the dressing table and sat down before taking off the light brown glasses that had been placed on the bridge of his nose. His makeup artist immediately noticed the faint blue-black color under his eyes. His skin was originally a bit pale, but the bluish-black color looked very eye-catching. Jing Hui noticed the makeup artist's gaze and smiled at the mirror. I accidentally fell in love with the script last night. I stayed up late for a while, so I need you to help cover up the dark circles under my eyes. It should be. The script that teacher Jing received must be very exciting, otherwise I wouldn't be fascinated by it. Sitting next to Jing Hui was Lin Yo, who raised his eyebrows vaguely when he heard the conversation next to him. He didn't know if the actor named Jing Hui stayed up late reading the script last night, but he definitely drank a lot. Is it possible that he could continue reading the script after drinking? He was accused of plagiarism and his reputation plummeted. From a young potential painter to a plagiarist that everyone shouted at, he also spent a period of decadence and started drinking alcohol at that time. It was not until Arlene encouraged him to cheer up that he worked hard to quit drinking. Although the person next to him used the strong smell of perfume to suppress the fermentation smell emanating from his body, the smell of alcohol was too familiar to him. But even if he guessed that Jing Hui might have lied, he had no intention of exposing it. We were originally from two different worlds, but they accidentally crossed paths through this program. After the program was recorded, they were completely different from each other again. Qian Yaya asked a makeup artist to give herself a cute cat-like makeup. As a high school student, she didn't have the right to wear makeup, so she took this opportunity to have fun. Shen Heshan and Lu Sen decisively stopped when the makeup artist was about to apply eyeliner on themselves. A wave of hands doesn't have to be so troublesome. A person who directly says that he feels like a little girl wearing eyeliner should not wear it. The two makeup artists had no choice but to put down their eyeliners and even chose colorless lipstick. There was still some time to finish putting on makeup. Sicheng didn't bother to take his sister, who had changed a lot, to look left and right. The two siblings went straight to the cafeteria. Jing Hui originally wanted to go, but seeing that except for the pair of siblings who came from a remote place, no one else moved, so he silently took back his steps. It took less than 20 minutes for Suyi and Sicheng to return with full stomachs. Everyone stayed in the dressing room for a while, and then received the notice to go downstairs. A small passenger car has parked in front of the TV station gate. When I went out to get in the car, I saw the director who had been missing for almost an hour and was waiting in the car. Chen Weiwen looked at the guests with a smile as they picked their seats and sat down. Then he pointed to several lenses fixed in the carriage. From now on, the recording of our program will begin. 7 inheritors of calligraphy and painting, be prepared yet. 7 people who were suddenly dubbed the inheritors of calligraphy and painting. Most of them didn't react for a while until Jing Hui, who was sitting near the front, nodded in the direction of the camera. Ready. Director, you said before that our destination this time is a studio. What kind of studio is this? What are we going to do? We should be able to say it now, right? Chen Weiwen immediately looked towards Jing Hui, glanced at some amateur guests behind him who had not yet recovered, and sighed secretly. When it comes to variety show performance, it really has to be done professionally. As soon as he opened his mouth, the camera was on. He nodded calmly. It's really time to reveal it. The studio we went to is very special. It's not so much a studio as it can be said to be an experience center. By the way, I'm here to test you all. You guys, what do you start with when learning calligraphy and painting? Everyone who finally reacted thought for a while and began to answer. Lin Yo, a work by a famous artist. Lusen, the calligraphy and painting of our ancestors. Qian Yaya, My aunt gave me a pair of fine brushwork fans. I couldn't put it down after seeing it. I grabbed my aunt's arm and started wanting to learn from it. It was John Lingzi's turn: pen, ink, paper, and inkstone. Seeing the smile on the director's face suddenly widen, Jinghuai's heart skipped a beat. Haha, now let me reveal the answer to the mystery. The studio we went to allows you to witness with your own eyes how several tools are used to create calligraphy and painting works, including pens, inks, paper, inkstones, and pigments. Each one has its own characteristics. There are so many categories. After visiting, you have to make one of them yourself. After all, without these tools, where would the masterpieces be? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 288. Chapter 288. The Four Treasures of the Study: Pen, Ink, Paper, and Inkstone. After Chen Weiwen finished speaking, the carriage was quiet for a moment. When they learned that they were going to the studio, they guessed that they would go to the studio to sketch, to be teachers in the studio for a while, to guide others in calligraphy and painting, and even to complete a thematic work under the witness of everyone in the studio. Let everyone choose the best one. Only I didn't expect that this time I would have to deal with pens, inks, paper, inkstones, paints and other tools that I have long been used to when writing and painting. If the production is completed, can it be taken away by then? Chen Weiwen looked at Su Yi, who was sitting next to Zhang Lingzi. The question just now was asked by this girl. He pondered for a moment and nodded with a smile. Yes, it's my first time making it by myself. The finished product may not be perfect, but it is meaningful enough to you. If you want to take it away as a souvenir, you can of course do it. No, you don't have to pay. Lu Sen was sitting on the seat in front of Su Yi. Taking advantage of the fact that his sister could not hear him in the car behind, he simply laughed without holding back. What are you paying attention to? How can the program team ask us to pay for it? Chen Weiwen glanced at Lu Sen and explained to Su Yi, the studio we went to also cooperated with the program team. The program team borrowed the studio's place and tools, and in turn waited for the program to be broadcast, which also promoted the studio. So don't worry about funds, this trip is completely free. As a director, he has the basic information of everyone present. He also knows where Su Yi is from. He can also guess why this girl is paying attention to this issue. It can only be said that the circumstances are different, but this is not a reason to be laughed at. Lu Sen silently stopped laughing at his sight. Su Yi nodded gratefully. I understand, thank you, director. It was less than half an hour's drive, and it felt like it only took a few words. The bus stopped and everyone got up and got off one after another. Zhang Lingzi glanced at Su Yi, who was following her step by step, hesitated for a moment but said nothing. If you feel safer and more comfortable staying with her, then go for it. Shen Heshan had just looked away from Zhang Lingzi's back. It was obviously the Su family sister that he met first, and he took them to the hotel by car. As a result, the Su family sister was obviously more dependent on Zhang Lingzi, whom he met later, which made the young man who felt that he was already a man a little depressed. Chen Weiwen led the way and led everyone through an antique gate. In the green shade of the courtyard, a girl wearing an ink cheongsam was already waiting. Seeing Chen Weiwen, he greeted with a smile, Director Chen. Teacher Luan. Chen Weiwen stepped forward and shook hands with the other party. I'm going to bother Teacher Luan today. Director Chen, you're welcome. The studio has been set up and can start shooting at any time. Okay, let me introduce some guests in this field to Teacher Luan. When introducing Zhang Lingzi and Jing Huai, the young-looking Teacher Luan glanced at the two of them. This is the first time a celebrity has set foot in my studio. Welcome you too. Jing Huai looked back and complimented naturally, Teacher Luan runs such a large studio. He is young and promising. Excellent award. Jinghui raised his head and adjusted the glasses on the bridge of his nose, his eyes twinkling. The boss of the studio is a woman and very young, which was unexpected to him. Although the other party welcomed him and Zhang Lingzi extravagantly, he didn't hear how excited the man was, as if he was just being polite. He is no different from other amateur guests with just an extra identity. He is used to enjoying the preferential treatment of being a star, but now this situation makes him somewhat uncomfortable. Zhang Lingzi had already gone to look at the two couplets engraved on wooden boards hanging on both sides of the front hall. Couplets are very simple. First couplet, 4 treasures of the study. The second line, pen, ink, paper, and inkstone. It's not just a word. Iron paintings and silver hooks, the wind and spirit are beautiful and different, but they do not lose their purity. Good words. Luan Zuiyu was about to lead everyone in, when he heard the sound, he paused and looked back at Zhang Lingzi, then followed her gaze to the couplet in front of him, with a real smile on his face. Thank you for the compliment, these words are my grandfather wrote it and it has been handed down to me today. Lu Sen didn't think much at first. He got the hint and looked at the couplet. An idea came to his mind, Luan Zifeng, who are you Luan? My grandfather. The arrogance on Lu Sen's face suddenly disappeared. When I was a child, I was learning calligraphy and copied Luan's copybooks, but I didn't pay attention just now. It's disrespectful. Luan Zuiyu just listened to Chen Weiwen's introduction. I just heard from Director Chen that your surname is Lu, so. My ancestor is Luling. It turns out he is a descendant of Luling. It's an honor for me to meet him today. Everyone, please come in quickly. Jinghui noticed that the studio boss was more enthusiastic about Zhang Lingzi and Lu Sen. Before going in, he couldn't help but take another look at the 8 characters. Luan everyone? There is quite a lot of knowledge. The studio is divided into 4 major areas, divided according to pen, ink, paper and inkstone. The 3 areas of pen, ink, and paper are divided into a visiting area and an experience area. The inkstone is special and only has visiting rights. The visiting area is also classified and can be touched. And those that cannot be touched. Then the person in charge of each area will lead you to visit. If you are interested, you can personally experience the difference of various pens, inks and papers, or make a pen or a piece of paper under the guidance of the teacher. Paper. After Luan Zuiyu finished speaking, he introduced the 4 persons in charge of his studio. Chen Weiwen has stepped away from the camera and gestured to the guests to move freely. Upon seeing this, Jinghui first suggested, how about we visit one by one, so that the teachers can explain it to us one by one. Others have no objections. The first thing I went to was the calligraphy brush exhibition hall. Going around an antique screen, you will see the paradise of calligraphy brushes. Some are as thin as the thickness of a pencil refill and are as long as a palm, while others are as high as chest and cannot be held with 2 hands. The pen holders are made of all kinds of materials, with gold and wood being the most common ones, and even stone and even jade ones. Various patterns are carved on the pen holders, and some are simple and low-key. After Suyi came in, he felt that his eyes were completely blind. He looked at the things placed and hanging around him. He couldn't see hundreds of them at a glance, and none of them were the same. Unknowingly, he opened his mouth wide, completely speechless. Although others did not react as much as she did, they were also quite shocked. Qianyaya couldn't walk when she saw a set of brushes suitable for gongbai painting. When the person in charge came over, she couldn't wait to ask, "Teacher, do you sell these brushes?" "Not for sale," Qianyaya was about to show a disappointed expression, and the person in charge continued with a smile, "But we can accept customization, which is handmade. The construction period will inevitably be a bit long, and the price. I've decided, that's it, where can I pay the deposit?" Everyone. This girl, do you still remember that they are here to record a program, not to buy anything? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 289. Chapter 289 Yahoo ink, Chinsin paper, broken inkstone. Compared to the dazzling brush display area, the ink and paint area next door seems a lot rougher. The black ink blocks all look the same, but only by getting closer and smelling them in some cases can you notice their subtle differences. The pigment area is much more colorful. All kinds of prepared pigments are packed in transparent glass bottles. The color names and raw materials are written on the labels. The ores and other raw materials for preparing pigments are also available. Lu Sen, who has never been short of these, couldn't help but breathe quickly when he looked at the variety of paints in front of him that were even more complete than his own. It turns out that these paints are made from these things. Su Yi's face suddenly dawned, and he swallowed back what he almost blurted out later. No wonder it's so expensive. She doesn't know anything else, but she still knows about things like ore. Non-renewable resources can be used less as much as they are used, but they are rare. There are cheap ones too. Lu Sen glanced at her. Chemical paints are cheap, but I never use them. They are just for painting and playing. Paintings made with natural pigments are better looking. Su Yi swept his fingers across the front of the bottles containing paint and nodded in agreement. These colors are so beautiful. The paints that Teacher Jian left for her were not complete, and there were several types of paints that she had never seen or heard of before. It is destined not to be owned, but it is good to have the opportunity to see it now. Qian Yaya was not as excited as she was when she saw the set of brushes in the brush area. It was the first time for Su Yi to see these things in front of her, but she followed her aunt, who was a professor at the Academy of Fine Arts and still held these paints when she was a child. I have played with ore. Zhang Lingzi's eyes just glanced at the paints, and finally landed on the black rectangular ink block covered by a glass cover. The person in charge on the side saw this and was about to step forward to explain. This is Yahoo Mo Bar, Jing Huai said with a determined smile on his face. He stepped forward and took a closer look at the glass. It should be from the Qianyang period. There are very few that exist now. I didn't expect it to be here. See a complete piece here. The person in charge nodded in surprise. Teacher Jing is very knowledgeable. This is indeed Yahoo ink. It was collected by the late Luan master and later passed to our boss. Our boss was not willing to use it, so he put it here for everyone to see. Yes. Teacher Jing is the second person to recognize the origin and age of this ink. After speaking, she couldn't help but glance at Zhang Lingzi, who was standing quietly by the side. Although this teacher Zhang didn't say anything just now, she always felt that the other person must have seen the extraordinary power of this piece of ink. It was Teacher Jing who spoke out first. The quiet tea room next door. Chen Weiwen sat in front of the monitor with a teacup in his hand and looked at the picture coming from the next door. He squinted his eyes when he saw this scene. Luan Zuiyu was sitting next to him and naturally saw this scene. He slightly curled his lower lip and said, "This teacher Jing is quite knowledgeable." The key is that, among the 7 guests scattered around the scene, when he was talking and introducing Yao's Humo, the camera bypassed everyone else and showed him. Chen Weiwen smiled and replied, "You must have some real ability to be able to come to my show. It's fair to steal the spotlight like this," and he wouldn't say anything even if he saw it. After visiting the ink and paint area, the next step is paper and silk. Gongbai paintings mostly use silk. Qian Yaya couldn't walk after seeing the different colors and sizes of silk. Looking eagerly at the person in charge of the introduction, "Can you even make silk?" "Then can I." Before she could finish speaking this time, the person in charge quickly waved his hand. "The paper can be made, but this silk is also custom made by us and can only be used for viewing." Then can I buy it from you? Miss Jian, please read the pricing first before talking. It's okay, I'm not short of money. Zhang Lingzi had just brushed her fingers over a stack of Chinsentang papers and couldn't help but twitching her mouth when she heard the conversation coming from the side. This classmate Jianyaya probably really forgot that she was still filming a program at the moment and was only thinking about purchasing goods. But the paper here, she also finds it quite friendly. Since waking up in this era, she has seen all kinds of paper, the most common of which is paper used for writing, which is white, flexible, and has excellent texture. But what she had in front of her now was more like the paper handmade by craftsmen thousands of years ago and used for writing and painting. As for the price, she glanced at the price list on the side with her head tilted, and her fingers flicked. At the right time, Jianyaya's wailing sound came to my ears. Why is it so expensive? She agreed with this. The Chinsentang paper she just touched was priced at 20 yuan per piece. If she remembers correctly, the A4 paper used for crew announcements is about the same size as this, and you can buy a thick stack for 20 yuan. Look at the silk hanging on the side. Okay, just double it. Seeing Jianyaya clasping her hands together, I buy a small piece of each item. Can you give me a discount? Person in charge. She glanced at the surrounding cameras and the staff of the program team, but she still shook her head directly. I have to ask the boss for permission. After Suyi saw the price list, he had no intention of buying anything here. She saw that Shen Heshan and Mr. Lin were walking around freely and looking around. They also followed suit quietly and learned a lot when they met those who were interested. They could touch them lightly. It's satisfying to feel the texture and material of the paper. Shen and Chen walked around and finally saw something they were interested in, this fan. The person in charge quickly avoided Jianyaya who was pestering him, walked over and picked up the fan that Shen Heshan was interested in, and replied with a smile, fans are all blank fans, you can directly inscribe and draw on them. You can also choose the material package for making paper fans and make them yourself. Shen Heshan's eyes lit up when he heard this, and he had already decided what to do in the hands-on part of the meeting. Finally we arrived at Yantai district. Everyone once again experienced the shock of visiting the calligraphy brush area before. Inkstones of different sizes and materials are placed on high and low tables. The carvings are exquisite, and the crystal jade texture is so radiant that people can't get enough of it. Lu Sen originally came here with the arrogance of how can a mere studio have as many collections as his own, but by this time, there was not much arrogance left in his heart. Although this is a studio, after visiting it all the way, the background of the studio is much deeper than he expected. How many square meters of mud and inkstone are there? Since there is more than one party, it should be able to be sold, right? This is not the first time that the person in charge of this area was asked about his precious inkstone. Even though he was facing someone from the program team this time, he still shook his head firmly and said, "Sorry, this is not for sale." Lu Sen's shoulders suddenly slumped. The person in charge touched the earphones in his ears. Looking at the disappointed look of the person in front of him, he changed his tone and said, "But if Mr. Lu likes our inkstone, there is a hidden challenge in this inkstone area." Hidden challenges. These words not only made Lu Sen curious, but other people around him who were admiring the inkstone also cast interested glances. Our studio recently had a batch of inkstones that failed to be fired and were ready to be scrapped. Although they are not pure mud, they are all made of good mud. If you choose to repair them, after the repair is completed, the inkstones can be given away free of charge. She said and led everyone behind a small screen. They saw a spacious table filled with broken pieces of all sizes. Everyone. It was not fired successfully. It was simply smashed deliberately after being burned. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 290. Chapter 290 Experience production in progress. As you have just seen, we have two skilled masters in each area. You are free to choose one of them to learn and experience. If you have any questions during the period, you can ask our masters. There are fixed cameras in the experience area, which have been filming the masters who are working hard. Zhang Lingzi and the others have seen them when they visited before. Now is the time to choose. Lin Yo, who had been silent before, was the first to move. I choose the pen. Arlene, who was standing outside the camera, heard his choice and her eyes turned red. She still remembers the scene when Lin Yo returned to the studio at home and silently broke all the brushes he used to draw after being accused by everyone, including his teachers and classmates, of plagiarism. Haven't picked up a pen since then. She could finally see her Arnold holding a pen again. Shen Heshen also didn't hesitate much. I choose to make the fan. After Lu Sen's eyes lingered in the paper and silk area and the inkstone area for a while, he still didn't dare to face the pile of completely broken pieces. I choose to make paper. Can I choose gold sprinkled paper? Since he had to choose, he would choose the most expensive and difficult one. Of course, come this way. Everyone thought that Jianyaya would be able to choose brushes. After all, she was the only person present who directly ordered a set of brushes. But the girl's choice also exceeded everyone's expectations. I choose to make ink. Facing the unexpected looks from everyone, Jianyaya smiled with a pair of dimples. Auntie's piece of ink is almost used up, so I just took this opportunity to make one for her. When the camera focused on Suyi, the girl's hesitant expression was clearly evident. Honestly, if she had enough time, she would choose all four. Finally, she took a deep breath and looked at the inkstone area. I choose the hidden mission. Lu Sen, who was about to step into the paper area, paused and couldn't help but look back at Suyi. Moving his mouth, he still didn't say anything. The reason why hidden tasks are called hidden tasks proves that they are so difficult that they are almost impossible to complete. He had never seen before how much Suyi liked the inkstone, yet he chose a hidden mission that even he did not dare to choose. I really don't know what I'm thinking about this. But it has nothing to do with him. Soon, only Zhang Lingzi and Jing Huai were left at the scene. When it comes to status in the entertainment industry, Jing Huai is at the forefront, and the person in charge also asked him first, "What is Mr. Jing's choice?" Jing Huai couldn't help but glance at Zhang Lingzi's face, but still couldn't tell what this man was thinking. Let's make a pen. Compared to the ink area where Jianyaya is a fan, Lu Sen and Shen Heshen are high profile and noble, and both are in the paper and silk area. The job of repairing inkstones, which he thinks he can't do and is not interesting, is better in the calligraphy area. It's cleaner and more relaxed, and Lin Yo's reticence is nothing to worry about. When the person in charge looked towards her, Zhang Lingzi reached out and pointed at the ink area before the person in charge could say anything. Ink. Chen Weiwen sat in front of the monitor and raised his eyebrows in surprise. Of these four experience projects, in his opinion, Mo District is the least likely to be chosen by Zhang Lingzi. He originally thought that the girl would choose the brush area or the paper and silk area. After all, making ink would not only accidentally get on the hands and be difficult to wash off, but also be a laborious task when beating. As a result, except for Suyi who challenged the hidden task, the other two girls among the 7 guests actually chose to make ink. Jianyaya, who had just received the work clothes handed over by the master and was about to put it on her body, was stunned when she saw Zhang Lingzi coming in. Did teacher Zhang also choose to make ink? The smile on the face of the old master in charge of teaching suddenly widened a bit. He originally thought that there would be no candidates for his experience area. After all, making ink can easily dirty your hands and requires a lot of effort. How can the brush area and paper and silk area next door be as clean as possible? Unexpectedly, 2 female dolls came at once. He quickly took out another clean work clothes and said, "Come on, put this on first, don't get your clothes dirty. This involves learning a craft from someone." In ancient times, this kind of craft would require formal kowtow and apprenticeship. Zhang Lingzi took the work clothes with both hands and said, "Thank you, master. You can just call me Xiao Zhang." Qian Yaya then remembered that she hadn't introduced herself yet, so she hurriedly said, "Just call me Yaya." "Okay, Xiao Zhang, Yaya, you two can sit around this table as you like. I'll take out the raw materials for making ink later." "I'm with you." Qian Yaya also quickly followed. Mao Tong looked at the back in front of him and blinked. She always felt that Zhang Lingzi had an unusual respect for the master who taught them how to make ink. After getting the raw materials, Zhang Lingzi knew why the ink could be made in one day. Smoke and glue are readily available. Subtracting these two most time-consuming processes, the most troublesome thing is only the training. Under the guidance of the old master, the two of them mixed the smoke and glue and steamed it until it turned into a soft and solid ink ball. The master handed over two more tools for pounding and said with a smile, "The time has come to test your strength and patience." Qian Yaya also took a sip into the palm of her hand and said, "Let's fight." Zhang Lingzi glanced at her, took the hammer for pounding and tapped it in her hand. After throwing down the ink ball, she was not afraid of getting dirty. She reached over and touched it and twisted it before dropping the hammer. The sound of beating one after another began to sound continuously in the quiet space. Compared with the movement here, the other three experience areas are much quieter. Suyi wiped the sweat from the tip of her nose. After nearly 3 hours of hard work that made her eyes hurt, she finally pieced together a complete inkstone from a pile of fragments. But the real test will begin. She needed to glue the pieces together even more carefully than when she had just found them, until they were restored to a solid, usable whole. The old master in the inkstone area was leisurely relaxing with his eyes closed. He didn't think anyone could have the patience to do this, otherwise the fragments wouldn't have been left here for so long. The little girl who chooses this hidden mission will sooner or later give up out of impatience. As a result, while he was drowsy, he heard a voice from the side like an auditory hallucination, "Master, I spelled out the inkstone, can you teach me what to do next?" The master closed his eyes for 3 seconds and then suddenly opened them. Turning his head to look, he saw an inkstone that at first glance seemed to be complete placed on the white table beside him. Looking at the little girl standing next to the inkstone, whose eyes were a little red from the heat, he moved his mouth but said nothing. "Well, I thought I would have free time for this whole day, but who would have thought that I would actually meet a young girl with enough perseverance? Let me give you a shot first. The process of repairing the inkstone is not as simple as picking it out from a pile of fragments. Can you tell me why you insist on choosing such a difficult task?" Suyi picked up a fragment, smiled and replied softly, "From the beginning when I learned painting from the teacher, I used an inkstone with only 1/3 left. If this inkstone can be repaired, I will have it. A complete inkstone." When he met the expectant eyes of the little girl in front of him, the master almost couldn't help but said, "I'll give you a complete piece." He finally swallowed it back. "Girl, do you know that you picked out the pieces and put them together? This piece is the most thoroughly broken in this batch." When he thinks about the workload ahead, he wants to go dark now. End of this chapter.